Salutations, you degenerates. I just noticed, because sometimes I'm a little observant, I notice that YouTube likes me ranting about stupid things in the NBA, or ranting about the NBA, or something with the NBA. I don't know. They just like me grasping on the tender nectar of the NBA. So I went, you know what? If I was any decent, I should capitalize on this. And you know what? That's exactly what I'm doing. So, what am I here to talk to you about today? I'm here to talk to you about the Utah Jazz. Are they legit, or is it just lucky? Where is this coming from? They're supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league. They were trying to. Everyone thought they were pulling the Thunder, right? You know, trading their Westbrooks and Paul Georges for picks. They traded away Gobert and Mitchell, which looked like the core of the team. You know, Gobert, consistent defensive player of the year candidate. Mitchell was a top 10, top 5 scorer, the Spider, a very good scorer, and actually a pretty good defender too. He just lacked a little consistency before. He's balling on the Cavs now, but you know, they're not playing that bad on the other teams. So where the fuck is this Jazz magic coming from? Well, that's what I'll attempt to explain, and I'll let you know. Spoilers ahead. I think this Jazz team is pretty legit, and it all starts and begins with their star player right now, star quote unquote, Lauri Markkanen. Now, I know what you're saying. Oh, it's just 11 games in the season. Lauri Markkanen ain't shit. He's gonna regress. I don't, absolutely not, guys. He is not. You know why? Let me lay it out. Lauri Markkanen finally has an opportunity to succeed on the Utah Jazz. This is something he had never had his entire career leading up to this point, and I'll explain why. He was drafted by the Timberwolves and traded to the Bulls before he stepped on the court, and it was during draft night that happened. And he was on the Bulls team. Now this Bulls team had a lot of issues, but first and foremost, in my opinion, for those Bulls team was direction from Garpax and coaching. Our coaching, and I'm a Bulls fan, so I'm telling you this raw. Our coaching is a joke. During Lauri Markkanen's tenure as a Bull, he had Fred Hoiberg and Jim Boylan as his coaches. Now, let me explain how this is so bad, right? How this is such a joke, right? The roster I'll show you. This is the Bulls roster for 2017. Fucking Fred Hoiberg looked at this team and said, this is a frequent three-point shooting team. All they need to do is go for 3 points. What a fucking idiot. You know why Dwayne Wade had much more threes towards the later of his career? Sure, he was slowing down. He had to do it naturally. But a big part of it on his tenure on the Bulls was because the whole system was like, okay, I know a shit ton of you don't shoot threes. Barely any of the guards shot threes. But none of you shoot threes. How about you guys shoot threes now? Absolute moron. And Jim Boylan wasn't any better. His fucking rotations were shit. Ugh, terrible development of players. We wasted a lot of draft picks and a lot of young talent because of those morons being at the helm. Just stupid. So those are his first 4 years. And even then, he was doing okay. But he had to do it by shooting the three ball. He wasn't given an opportunity to succeed. They basically said, Lauri Markkanen, you're tall, you're white. Go in the corner and shoot some threes. And that's what he did for a good solid point of his career. But he wasn't able to show off his true prowess that we see in Utah now. And when he went to the Cavs, no different. The Cavs situation was that there was like 4 power forwards that could legitimately look like starters, and Lauri Markkanen was one of them. So he got pretty shafted when it came to minutes plays and getting the ball in his hands, especially since that was Garland's emergent season. So Garland was, he was shooting a lot. He couldn't really pass it as much, and they got Mobley. They had Kevin Love, who takes up a lot of usage when he's on the court. Sure, his minutes plummet, but don't get me wrong. Kevin Love takes a lot of usage when he's on the court. They just had so many power forwards that season. So of course, Lauri Markkanen didn't have a point to succeed. So now you look at it. Bulls tenure, such a joke management, joke coaching, a terrible way of use of his skills. Cleveland, he didn't have the minutes, he didn't have the touches for him to succeed. Now we get to Utah, he has all of that. He has free reign to do whatever the heck he needs to do, and he's showing it. Dude has sneaky athleticism. You see the dunks this guy pulls off? Sneaky athleticism for a guy at his length, and great athleticism. He is. I think he's right now like ranked top 5 on ball defense or some shit. Like on ball defense, he's not just doing rebounds and scoring points that you see so many power forwards that check in, put in their stats, and just check out on defense. No, he's putting in the work on defense too. He is legitimately on his way to a solid season that could be all-star and could be more. He is balling out right now. And it's because he finally has an opportunity to succeed, which he didn't his entire career. So that's step one. Now, it can't just be one player, right? If you're going to tell me that one player is going to carry, he's no Nikola Jokic, marketing. We're not going to overrate him too much. So where else does it come from? Well, they got at point guard, they got Mike Conley. Mike Conley is probably one of the most consistent, stalwart point guards in the league. He can lead a team. Mike Conley has always been known as someone who can lead a team. He's got great, I know on 2K you got the defensive anchor and you got the floor general. He's got those on Hall of Fame. He knows how to organize his team, how to, where the team should go, how to set up an offense. He can do that really well. And you see less of that nowadays, because nowadays you expect your point guard to just, go off and do all the scoring and not care about the teams. So Mike Conley is able to bring that value to Utah. So with that in mind, a rare thing that Utah has in Mike Conley and Lauri Markkanen, you have someone who can lead the team and just like intrinsically, and then you have someone who can lead the team stat-wise, or he can lead in scoring and lead in rebounding. So where else does Utah's value lie? Well, there's a lot of role players you can jump to. Utah's a very deep team and has a lot of players that it seems can go to. But I'm going to focus on just 2 other players for now, because what most of the Utah's roster is made up of is a lot of good wing players that can score a decent amount. They have decent 3 balls and can score and a lot of spots on the court, right? There's 2 players I want to exemplify, though, because one is as pure offense as it can be, and the other is as pure defense it could be. And for offense, it's Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson has been Lou Williams since Lou Williams is no longer here. He's no longer the 6th man anymore, Utah. He's the starting shooting guard, but he just goes out there and score. And that, if you look at anywhere, going out there and just scoring and at a decent rate, because he's shooting 3-ball great this season, but just going out there and scoring is an incredibly valuable skill, because as many will tell you, scoring is the most important thing there is in basketball. It doesn't get more important than saying go out there and score. Jordan Clarkson, he's incredibly underrated to the point where he's one of the best scorers in the league. He's just that simple. He goes out there and becomes one of the best scorers in the league, and that cannot be underrated. Jordan Clarkson is a baller on offense. And now on the other hand, we got defense. Jared Vanderbilt is a baller on defense. There isn't much more value than Jared Vanderbilt on defense, just intrinsically and just on everything in general. This dude can hustle, he can play on ball, he can play off ball, he can rebound. He has a bit of a fouling issue, which if you're fucking running around the court as much as he is, like throwing your body everywhere, doing all the hustle plays, you're gonna pick up the most fouls. But yeah, he goes out there and does it, and he does it extremely well too. And it's kind of makes an interesting dynamic where you got Jordan Clarkson, Jared Vanderbilt, a nice little yin yang going. Like got the offense, you got the defense, and so now these are like these are the 4 core players, I'd say, for this team. I know they have Olynyk. I don't think Olynyk is a core player that much. He's a decently passing big man that with a very inconsistent shot. He has decent much going for him. He can be a bit stalwart, but he's also lacking on defense. So Jared Vanderbilt also complements him very well. So they have 4 essential players: Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley, and Jared Vanderbilt. the way it's not just the players themselves, because I know what you're gonna say to me. Laurie Markkinen, he's overrated now because he was bad before. I listed to you why all the reasons he's bad. Jordan Clarkson is a ball hog. He's not even efficient at times. It's straight up not true, but you'll argue that. Mike Conley's old. He's wearing down, and he doesn't score like he should. Sure, but if you need a leader, he's a great leader. And Jared Vanderbilt, he fouls a lot and his offensive stats are putrid. Notice how all those flaws, other than, you just being an asshole and saying they're irrelevant, notice how all those flaws counteract each other. That's a well-built team. Like, if that's your core, that's a well-built team. Look at, like, any other team that lacks that. They're excelling in facets that they have a team all around them. Let's look at the Lakers. Lakers is a team where they have a lot of issues, and you would have to need an entire separate video to talk about all the issues that Los Angeles Lakers have. However, the Los Angeles Lakers, you look at them and say, man, they should be better equipped than the Jazz, right? They got 2 stars. They got some role players that can do a lot. This team should be good. Well, a lot of injury issues for one, and they have a lot of inconsistent shooters. And other than that, and their inconsistent shooters, it's just like a bunch of guys that can't do much playmaking. They don't have someone that can be great on the ball. And also, not to mention Russell Westbrook actively hurts the superstars he plays around, and himself when he plays around other superstars. But it is what it is. Hey, they're seeing him as a good 6-man now, and whatever works. But if you look at the way this roster is set up, it's just a bunch of inconsistent swing players. Like they expect who's the playmaker? Like, behind LeBron, who is the playmaker? Patrick Beverley? Patrick Beverley he's a decent playmaker, but was never considered a defensive stalwart. And most of the teams Patrick Beverley on, like his main tenure known as the Clippers and Rockets. He had better playmakers play around him, James Harden, Chris Paul. So he can't be a playmaker. So you're putting all this load on LeBron with AD being injured all the time and Westbrook being Westbrook. They have their flaws. They have flaws, and they don't have anything that can keep up with the flaws. On Jazz, on the other hand, they have flaws, but then they have other players that could say, okay, I can pick up where you left off. I can be there to stop your flaw. And they have a lot of interesting scorers, but a lot of interesting defenders. And it's really cool to see how a lot of these players were looked past, maybe this will be their last few seasons. They're kind of looking like busts. How you can see these players are really cool. They're really good in the facets that they excel at. And their flaws are being picked up. That's just a really, really awesomely made team. Isn't much more I can say. Utah Jazz, I believe, is decently legit. What I mean by decently legit, I think they're 40 or 50 win. At least, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see how they develop the rest of the season. But I know there's a lot you can say just based off the team stats alone. Maybe they've been shooting a bit too good, even though they're only in the middle of the pack when it comes to defense. Their pace is slow. Like, they're doing it in ways that isn't even that efficient for the modern game. That's how they're winning. So So the final aspect of this team is that they're all very scrappy. This was actually something that many outlets were saying before the season came in. Also, they were saying how Utah could pick up a lot of loose wins just because of how, a lot of these players are built so they want to win. They're scrappy. They'll fight for the win. And we're seeing that, but we're seeing it to a more degree. And it's a nice hidden element to have, It's something that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but you can tell. It's like, damn, it's there. And they're doing well. So, yeah. I think Utah Jazz is decent for success, and I'm glad you're all here with me to see it. I'll see you around.